As we have shown several times on this channel, the K-pop industry and the beauty standards have a close relation. Sometimes it can be good, and many others, it is the main source of criticism and negativity. It's part of an idol job to look the best they can, not only on stage, but anywhere really. We have talked about all what idols have to do to achieve the Korean beauty standards, as well as the effects it can have in their bodies, like damaged hair and weight loss. However, we haven't talked about what happens when you are considered to be an ideal example of beauty, when the pressure is not only about fulfilling the standards, but actually being perceived as the visual of the group. One could think that being considered beautiful makes everything easier, and while it certainly has its advantages, for the world of K-pop, it can also bring innumerable struggles not many people talk about. So, how about we discuss it now? And at the end, if I'm missing a point, you can tell me down below in the comment section. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and visit our webpage to find more content. Being beautiful or a person that fits the beauty standards will seem a good advantage in the entertainment industry. After all, the way you look does affect the perception people have of you. It is not a secret that people are attracted to certain features, and that whether it is consciously or unconsciously, they end up favoring people they consider beautiful over others. Then again, this can happen with other qualities, like singing and dancing ability or personality. It does not only have to be a physical trait. The problem arises when people, or in this case fans, try to use this preference to discredit others. They get lots of internal fan wars over whether they deserve to be given those lines or being in the center of the group. For example, Winter of Aespa is often compared to other members and even questioned over her position as the visual of the group. Also, Cha Eun-wook has received hate for having a supposed pretty privilege, and netizens argue that he isn't as talented as other members. I have to say, this situation is one of the main struggles visual idols have to endure. The visual member is in many cases considered not as talented, but why this happens? Fans of certain members will say it is because they don't work as hard as the others on their abilities, as being good looking is enough to stand out. But that is certainly not true. In some cases, they have had to work even harder to reach the level of the other trainees, like in Jisoo's case. Or for example Chui, because of her height, she has to adapt to the choreographies. You can check this video to see more about the struggles of the tall idols. I consider that many of these conceptions originate from the titles or roles they are given within the group. Generally, all other positions are given to other members, and visuals tend to be mostly that, the visual. The label, the broadcasting companies, and even the members themselves put lots of emphasis on the role of that person as a visual, and ignore or not mention much of their other qualities. They are pushed towards presenting themselves with that role, and that role only, and some could even argue that they are now measured with that perception in mind, which takes me to the next point. Visual idols are mostly criticized not by their performance or abilities, but by their physical characteristics. Already idols have to deal with so much pressure to adhere to the Korean beauty standards, but for visual idols this multiplies tenfold. It is no coincidence that idols who are recognized as top visuals suffer from attacks directed to certain characteristics. For example, Irene is severely criticized for being too short, even though Wendy and Jerry are almost the same height as her. Seolhyun and Chui have always been pointed out for having tan skin, Crystal for not smiling enough, and even Arin of Oh My Girl for laughing and smiling too much. It seems that any little physical aspect that doesn't completely adhere to the expectations of the public is regarded as something that should be criticized. Of course, all idols are criticized in one way or another, not only visuals, but it is interesting that for them, netizens always end up attacking their physical traits, and they are also the most prone to be scrutinized over their behavior, smiling, not smiling, showing anger, being too provocative, etc., which lead to one of the most important points. For this one, however, I have to say it is a really sensitive topic, so beware. We know all idols have to endure a difficult time on and off stage. Their job is not easy, and public certainly doesn't make it easier. In the case of visual idols, and especially concerning female visual idols, they have an extra layer of a struggle. When the public already recognizes them by their visual or pretty image, they tend to objectify the idol, and they feel with the power to criticize them even more. In this sense, if for example, the idol has a very pure and beautiful image, when they decide to be more provocative or dating news come out, the hate is quite venomous, more than with other idols. I would say visual idols are more prone to develop mental health issues because of this. Their image is what people like, not their talents or performance, and if anything were to taint that image, the repercussions are really tough to handle. Sadly, I have to say that cases like Hara and Sully align a lot with the situation, and though I'm sure not everything was caused by them being visuals of the group, and their stories deserve to be remembered in a deeper context than just them being criticized by the public, it is inevitable to think that having the ideal beauty image contributed, at least in some part, to their deteriorating mental health. The pressure to maintain that image, meet the high standards, and the continuous scrutiny of their behavior would make everyone have less than positive thoughts. Because of this, one will think that the role of the visual member will be better left behind and forgotten. However, at the end, it is part of the Korean culture to focus on the physical appearance. The country is known for their plastic surgery and beauty products after all. Besides, there is a conception established over the necessity of visual members to exist. You can see it in all the audition programs where there is always a segment talking about the visual trainees or participants. And lastly, if the group is considered to not have a visual member, they tend to get hate for it. This has been the case of GFriend, for example, where there wasn't a member that clearly stood out as a visual, mainly because all of them were equally attractive, but netizens decided that instead they would be considered an ugly group, and unfortunately, that comment was present for most of their careers. Finally, for the last point, I have to mention another instance where the opposite happens. Instead of the whole group being pointed out for not having a visual, the visual member could be blamed for the group's lack of activity or even disbandment. This has happened with both Misei and 4Minute. And of course, in both cases, there were a lot more things involved than only one member being more popular because of their looks. Still, the blame got directed to the idols that stood out because of their image. And this is something that seems to happen frequently with visual idols, the comparisons and internal conflict between fans and even members. In conclusion, all I have to say is that the role of the visual member can be helpful for the group. It does give more attention and promotion, but we need to remember that the title is not as glamorous and ideal as one will think. All idols suffer from pressure and public criticism, whether they are visuals or not, but I consider that idols with this particular title or image have to endure more than what the public is aware of, and their struggles need to be taken into account more often. Being beautiful can be both a blessing and a curse. Hope you liked the video and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.